Good afternoon. We are here with the State Representative Bill Callegari. He is in the middle of a busy session and he took some minutes to speak with us to voice his action at Texas GOP vote. Thank you, Mr. Callegari, to be able to do this interview for us. Well, first of all, I would like to know a little bit about the people in your district and what are the issues that they are concerned with.
My district is in West Harris County. Basically, it includes the city of Katy, which is the city itself is a very small portion of my district, but my district basically goes from the Waller and Fort Bend County lines, Waller to the west and Fort Bend County to the south, and goes east to Highway 6. My district is changing rapidly from a district that was primarily Anglo to one that's probably close to 50% Hispanic. And that's not necessarily bad. My whole school district is changing, so that probably within the next 2 or 3 years it's going to be a minority school district. Again, that's not bad, it's just the way it's happening. I don't think that's changed the values in my district. As I've told people, when you drive through my district, you don't see a change. People are just interspersed everywhere, and it's working pretty well. So I see the district as fairly homogeneous. I think there are a lot of concerns about family issues and taxes, and same thing that everybody's worried about.
Yeah, Mr. Callegari, now I do know that the House have a new conference that is called the Hispanic Republican Conference, and that you are one of the members. Can you tell me why did you choose to be part of the Hispanic Republican Conference?
It's probably several-fold. One is I do feel some closeness to the Hispanic community. I grew up in an area in Louisiana where there were 2 languages spoke. My mother grew up speaking French before she could speak English. And while it's not exactly the same, I think there are some parallels. And as I was growing up, there was a reluctance for having us speak French because they didn't want us to have accents, and I'm sure it's the same thing that some Hispanics run into. And I can remember those of us who did speak French, even though my mother taught French, we didn't try to make us speak French. And I can remember the uneasiness you felt in trying to speak French to other people, so I can kind of relate that to people who are trying to learn English. At the same time, I just feel a closeness to the Hispanic people. I grew up in a community that was 95%, 98% Catholic, so we have a lot in common in that regard. And some of my children's best friends were people with Hispanic names, Hispanic heritage. So I do feel a closeness, and I felt it's the right thing to do. We need to work together.
And as you say,
and I will say, I do think that a lot of Hispanic people are Republicans at heart, particularly with their family values.
That's right. The Democrats are trying to deceive the Hispanic community, telling them that only the Democrats care for the Hispanics, when really that is not the case, because the values of the Republican Party are the values of the Hispanics. Now, Hispanics will soon make 50% of the Texas population, as you say, not only in your district, but it's all over Texas. But really the future success of the Republican Party depends on their vote. What do you suggest that we can do to attract Hispanics to the Republican Party?
That's a little more difficult, because I know a lot of the issues that come up with immigration reform and what have you look to be a negative from the standpoint of Hispanic-speaking people. I don't see it that way. As I said, some of my children, in fact, my youngest son's best friend, his 2 best friends were Hispanic, and we spent a lot of time together with them. And that story in itself is a different story, but two cousins, first cousins, one was a single child who spoke perfect English, and although his parents didn't, the other was the youngest of 8 children who also speak perfect English, but their parents didn't speak very good English. So they learned English very well, but they made it work for them, if that makes any sense. But I just think we need to embrace the fact that the family values are right. I think we need to get, however way we can, past the immigration issues, so that I know a lot of Hispanics feel like, how can I say, feel like something needs to be done, but at the same time I think they feel compromised, if you will, because there are some family histories that they have to be concerned about. And I think we need to understand that, and I think they need to find help. We need to help them find a way, and they need to help us find a way to make it work. I've always felt that the immigration problem can best be solved with a lot of help from the Hispanic people. I don't think we've reached out enough to do that.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned this right now, because you use the word that we really have to pass the immigration issue. I always tell people that Hispanics are not monolithic. We care about many issues, not only one issue. However, because I'm Hispanic and because I'm an American by naturalization, people usually ask me that question. But since you mentioned it, like we need to pass that, and really the Hispanic Republicans who are in the Hispanic Republican Conference have signed a resolution, a House Compromise Resolution 88. I'm sure that you have heard about it, but it talks mainly about the federal government needs to do their job, but we really need to find a sensible, realistic solution. Do you feel that we could have some type of guest program for some of the people who are here?
You know, I have felt that when we had an opportunity from a national standpoint to pass legislation that would have had some kind of guest worker program, that was probably a good solution. While there are those who, and so, you know, it's not hard to understand why, some that feel we should have a more rigid policy. My thought process is the first thing you do is you solve the problem at the border. And once you solve that, then you can look at other issues. And you know, I think we had an opportunity to do that, we didn't.
Yes. Well, hopefully there is a solution that the people can explore. I always tell the people, certainly the border is I think, national security. All the borders must be secure.
Yes, correct. I agree.
As well. And also there are people who have come via airplane and they overextend their visas. So we certainly have to find a solution.
And that's true for the northern border as well as the southern border, I think we do.
That's right.
And the east and west for that matter.
Right. Well, I also understand, Mr. Callegari, that you are on the Committee for Government Efficiency and Reform. Tell me, how can we make the government more efficient, and what reforms are necessary to accomplish these? Will that contain government spending and taxes?
Yes. I do think that the thing that we can do, and my mantra is to try to make smaller government. I think in many cases, most cases, we've got too much government. We need to do what we can to reduce government's effect on people on a day-to-day basis. You know, we need to be able to carry out our lives without having a lot of excess, you know, government on us. And I think when you do that, you do affect the spending, you do affect the level of taxes on people, and you affect what people can do with their own money. I'd like to see fewer taxes, you know, less government interference with our lives, and have us the ability to decide what we want to do. I think we can govern ourselves locally. I much prefer local control than I do federal control or even state control. And I think if we control and govern ourselves, I think we do better. One of the things that within some of the studies we've made within the Government Reform Committee was to look at licensing. Texas licenses more occupations than most other states do. You know, not the most of all states, but more than most other states do. Over 35% of the people in Texas that are employed are employed under some license and confinement, if you will. I think that reduces competition. It reduces the ability of people, and particularly a lot of times Hispanics, from getting into industries, and many times just protects the industry. I think those things need to be opened up. The fact of the matter is it's very, very difficult to stop regulating something that's already regulated, because there are always some group of people that can cite some reason that it's necessary. But my theory is that you shouldn't regulate anything unless it really seriously affects health and welfare, if you will. And a lot of things that we do, a lot of things that we regulate are based on the fact that they're protection for that industry. But I think that's one of the areas we start. Easier said than done. It's one of the things I've tried to do. Also, we have a lot of laws and rules that exist that really have no further reason to be there. And one of the things we've tried to do in that committee is trying to eliminate unnecessary government, if you will, minimize the flow of paper, minimize the reports that we have to do that nobody looks at. Little things, if you do enough of them collectively, we can save money that accrues to the benefit of all of our citizens.
Yes. Well, one of the values that, besides all the values that we have in common, is the value for the right to life. And I understand that you are the joint author of HB 15, thank you for that, which is the sonogram bill, which is now finally on the governor's desk for signing. Tell us about the process and what it took to get it there.
Well, that's a real interesting one. I've always been interested in right to life, and I have to say, even when I first decided to run, one of my basic questions was, you know, how do I, and then I went and talked to my priest, my pastor about that. You know, what do you do if you're confronted with a bill that gets you part of the way but not all the way? You know, do you really insist on make sure we get everything we need, or do you take what you can get to go forward? And one of the things that came from those discussions were, you know, if we can get a bill that lets us accomplish, you know, some aspect of protecting life, you get what you can and then you keep moving to the next direction, instead of the attitude that if we can't a complete ban on abortions, then you stop. So that was a decision I made early on. But as we got into this session, we saw we had a real opportunity to pass a bill that was meaningful. The sonogram bill looked like something that would work out well for us. My seatmate, Sid Miller, and myself started working on it. We had a little discussion about who would be the lead, and it was really important to him. My concern was, I just want to get it passed. I don't care who took the lead. So I said, if it means that much to you, take it and we'll make sure it gets passed. And we started the process. We got a lot of help, I have to say, from the Speaker's office, and moved forward. And you know, with a lot of hard work by a lot of people, managed to get it done. And I certainly compliment all of those who helped us. And there were a lot of people who did help. But it was a bill that we felt was necessary, one that we think will really help move or maintain control over the large number of abortions that we have. It's important to us. I have a son right now who doesn't have children. He wants to adopt a child, and you know, that's important.
Yes, since the last session, we have been fighting for that sonogram bill, and I am very happy that finally you have been able to accomplish this.
I have another bill that I have filed that I'm authoring that just made it to calendars last night. I don't know if it'll make it to the floor, but it's a coercion bill. Okay. And it basically provides penalties and protections, more than penalties, protections for a woman who is threatened by a spouse, parents, whatever. You know, if you have an abortion, you know, if you don't have this abortion, I'll, you know, take away your funds, I'll throw you out of the house or whatever, I'll beat you, whatever. And it really tries to provide some protection, lets the lady know that there are protections from that, and provides some opportunity for people to, you know, to be able to resist those kind of threats. I don't know if we'll make it to the floor, but we're trying.
Well, we pray for that. Mr. Callegari, how many years have you been serving in the House?
This is my 6th term, so I've served a full, you know, 10 years plus about 5 months now.
Okay. And for seeing in your office that this is a lovely office, I can tell that there is something about horses in a specific that you like. Can you tell me a little bit about that and the saddle and the horses around?
Well, I live on about 40 acres just outside of Katy, and I grew up around horses and animals and what have you, so horses are kind of a passion for me. I have 8 horses at home, which are about probably 7 too many, but we enjoy them. We have 10 grandchildren, and soon to be 11 if the adoption goes through, and which I think it will. You know, and my kids grew up learning to ride, and it's just something we like to do.
Oh, that is wonderful. Well, Mr. Callegari, I want to thank you so much for this interview. Thank you for serving not only the people in your district, but thank you for serving the people of Texas.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Callegari.
And I wish the caucus a lot of luck.
Thank you very much.